Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the B-BBEE Podcast. With me, your host, Standi Msomi. We are hosted at the DTIC campus in Pretoria, and we're engaging colleagues at the B-BBEE Commission on their work to try and ensure that the B-BBEE Act, or the B-BBEE Act rather, is implemented in our communities and in our organization. Today, I have with me Josephine Shika, who works in the Compliance Division of the B-BBEE Commission, and we're here today to talk about the complaints that they get as a commission, how they deal with them, and how you as a citizen can take any concerns and complaints that you have to the commission to ensure more compliance and implementation of the Act. Josephine, welcome onto the podcast.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So perhaps we can start the conversation on how far the Commission itself can go to address any concerns that people have when it comes to compliance and implementation of the Act. What can and can't you do?
As a regulator, we regulate the B-BBEE space throughout South Africa. So we look into matters that have violation from the 24th of October in 2014. So any matter that starts after that date, we look into such matters. But if there's a violation that happened before that date, we still look into the matter if the violation is still continuing. Yeah.
And in the types of complaints that you get, what are some of the common ones that arise from people?
So we have different elements within the B-BBEE Act. So fronting can actually happen within all the elements, but we see it a lot within the ownership element, whereby you see that black people are used as a front, but black people are used for window dressing, whereby they just appoint a black person to become a shareholder in a company, but they don't actually participate in the company. So we've seen a lot of complaints whereby people would say, I'm a 51% shareholder in a company, however, I'm not participating in the company. I don't attend certain meetings whereby shareholders attend the meetings, and I don't also get economic interest, maybe in a way of dividends, for instance, when profits are being shared at the end of the financial year, the 51% black shareholder, for instance, would not get anything. So we see a lot of fronting within the ownership element. However, it happens throughout all the elements, or rather the B-BBEE Act and its regulations.
Yeah. And who are the most common people who tend to come to the Commission to lodge a complaint?
It's difficult to say because we deal with a lot of people. As you can note, we deal with BE violations throughout South Africa.
Yeah.
So you'd have different people in different spaces, but most of the times, like I indicated, it's the 51% black shareholders who would say, I was given shares in the company but did not participate. We've also seen more increase with ESD beneficiaries, whereby someone would say, I'm an ESD beneficiary, supply development beneficiary. I was supposed to get a certain grant or a certain benefit, however, that never came through. Yeah. So it's mostly black people that don't receive the actual benefit that they ought to receive. I think there's also more fronting or allegations within trust, whereby people would say that I'm an employee share ownership program beneficiary. However, I'm being treated only as an employee in the company and not as an indirect shareholder through the trust.
Sure. And when you engage some of the people who these complaints are being lodged against, what are some of their reasonings, and are they cooperative in working with the Commission?
Some are cooperative because we have what we call an alternative dispute resolution, whereby the complainant or the company that the complainant is complaining against would admit to fault, if I can put it that way, whereby now the B-BBEE Commission and the company would get into a mutual agreement to say for instance, I was owed economic interest through dividends, I never received anything, and through lodging my complaint, I indicated the outcome to be that I want my economic interest. So there would be that ADR process whereby the Commission and the company work together. Others would refuse, obviously, because it's very difficult to admit fault. And I think most of it comes from the fact that once you admit fault, it also damages your reputation as a company or even just a natural person. So others do refuse or indicate that they were not aware that what they're doing was fronting. However, the B-BBEE Commission has to be impartial and continue with its investigation in that instance.
Yeah, sure. I think you even get cases perhaps where there is fronting or maybe another form of violation where the person on the other side isn't even aware that they are being used and they aren't even aware that they actually have a right to complain about this. So what type of work does the Commission do to ensure that there is awareness from the part of Black shareholders and people in companies, and for them to actually talk about what they experience and for them to actually even be aware that in a situation they're actually on the wrong end of the stick?
Yeah, so mostly we rely on our education and awareness programs whereby we go around South Africa educating people about BEE, what fronting is, and how you can actually determine that you're being fronted and how you go about when you determine that you were actually being fronted. So through this education and awareness sessions, we are able to educate more people on what BEE is. So we mostly do this through just your normal trainings on BEE or just the conferences that the BEE Commission would undertake. We're going into Youth Month now, whereby we're going to have obviously a webinar whereby we're going to be educating people about BEE. We would have a certain topic whereby we educate people about BEE. And we also have a process whereby the public can come to the BEE Commission and ask any queries. They can call in or send an email whereby the Compliance Division would be able to properly interpret the Act to the public and be able to note that what is right and what is wrong.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps take us through some of the actual consequences that go with violating some of the precepts of the Act.
Okay, so the penalties within the BEE Act are actually the same throughout, whether it's fronting or misrepresentation, fronting in all the other elements within the Act. So any type of violation of the B-BBEE Act, the penalty is that for a juristic person, it can be a fine of up to 10% of the entity's annual turnover. And for a natural person, you'd have to be imprisoned for up to 10 years. And also the entity would be registered on a tender defaulter whereby they would not be able to do business with the government or any public entity for up to 10 years also.
I think also when we talk about the work of the Commission and the purpose of the B-BBEE Act, it's important to also note that there's many different opinions about the Act itself. And a lot of procurement processes, especially by government, emphasize things like local content and local procurement, and that has to do with integrating Black businesses into the supply chain. Of course, as a regulator, there's only so much you can do, but how should other stakeholders, whether it's a procuring entity in public sector or the private sector, work collaboratively to ensure that the precepts of the Act itself can be realized? And that, I guess, speaks to the bigger economic issues that we face that the Commission itself may not be able to directly address. But in the case when a company comes to you and says, we couldn't find a Black supplier who can supply this, or we don't have young Black skilled women in a certain area, how does the Commission itself advise on issues like that may be bigger economic issues that this country needs to address?
So normally, like I indicated, through the education and awareness sessions that we do, we'd also advise entities on how to go about identifying beneficiaries, either enterprise development beneficiaries or supplier development beneficiaries, or just entities to procure from. I can say it's a bit easy for government entities and those in the public sector because they use what we call a central supplier database to source its suppliers and the beneficiaries. However, those in the private sector should use the market and identify the kind of companies that they need to procure from. And it's also important to make sure that they also procure or assist companies within the same space, within the same sector, whereby they are able to develop people in the same sector. So mainly what I can say is that we look into education and awareness, whereby We also participate in ESD programs or events whereby they would call the BE Commission to have a collaborative event whereby we educate suppliers of a certain company on how to go about with compliance with the BEE Act. So say for instance, company ABC would have an event for its suppliers and call on to the BE Commission to come and educate its suppliers on how to go about, maybe for instance, making sure that you complete your SAN affidavit properly so that the company can actually indicate and show that it's black owned or not.
Yeah. No, thank you for taking us through that. And for someone who may be watching who has a complaint that they want to lodge, take us through step by step what processes they need to follow to ensure that the Commission can actually address those.
The process is actually easy, whereby you would need a BE Form 7. You can download it on our website. You complete the BE Form 7, whereby we need the personal details of the complainant, the details of the person or the company you're complaining against, and also the statement under oath, whereby you now elaborate what kind of B-BBEE violation actually occurred. And in the form also you need to indicate what actually, as a complainant, what did you do also to try to address the violation. Say for instance, maybe you're being excluded from BE meetings, you're being excluded from board meetings in the company. So now you try and maybe communicate with the other shareholders to say that, can you include me in meetings? Or maybe you see that dividends are being declared, people get economic interest. However, as a black person in the company, as a black shareholder, you're not getting anything. So maybe trying addressing that to say, can I see the financials of the company? But once now you're being denied of those things, you need to also indicate on the statement under oath that this is the steps that I tried to take, and still there's nothing happening from the other shareholders or from the company itself. You'd also need to indicate what kind of outcome you need from lodging the complaint with the BE Commission. Say for instance, you just want to still remain a shareholder in the company. You don't want to cut ties with the company. You want to remain a shareholder and maybe get your economic interest, what is due to you, and also participate in board meetings. So if that is the kind of outcome that you would want from us investigate your matter, you indicate that on the form. So the form and the statement under oath should also be accompanied by governing documents. By governing documents, it would be like your shareholders agreement, whereby we want to see how the company governs the relationship between the shareholders, a financing agreement if there's one, a sale of shares agreement also, the BE certificate of the company, and also company registration certificate of the company, so that we can be able to also check its details.
Yeah, and after this process, what can a complainant look forward to in terms of the possible outcomes that can come out of the investigation that the Commission does?
So like I indicated that on the form, you'd also need to indicate what kind of outcome you need. So say for instance, you said you want to continue participating in the company and be included in board meetings and so on. That can be the outcome that the BE Commission would undertake, so that they make sure that you get what is due to you or what you wish to get through being a shareholder in the company. So after investigating the matter, we issue our findings and recommendations on our website.
And your last pieces of advice to anyone who's watching who has a complaint, how would you advise them to engage with the Commission, but also how would you advise general business and society to continue implementing the Act itself and doing the right thing?
Yeah, so the first thing is that people should not be scared to come to the BE Commission and lodge complaints, because even if you don't want your identity to be known, you can lodge a complaint anonymously, whereby you still complete the form, the statement under oath, and you provide the relevant documentation. However, on your statement, you would have indicated that you'd like to remain anonymous, so that we don't indicate who actually came to the BE Commission to lay a complaint against company ABC. So they can still go through the process and be able to get what is due to them, because now in that instance where they lodge a complaint anonymously, the matter is going to be between the BE Commission and the company the person would be complaining against. So it would be seen as if the BE Commission is initiating on its own.
Thank you so much, Josephine. I learned a lot, and I'm sure that the people at home watching have learned a lot as well. If you do have a complaint that you want to lodge, contact the BEE Commission, visit their website to download that form. It's a Form 7 if I'm correct, and continue to engage, because these platforms are created to protect you but to also advance your economic interests. From my side, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again on our next episode.